it starts off talking about the Blackmans, and it provides information about them considering two different loan options for a $265,000 house. Those loan options are given in your problem, but they're summarized in like a paragraph instead of brief little explanations like I've written here. Please have your calculators out. When you're ready to type this stuff in on your Casio, you need to press menu, and then the letter C, I believe, is like above the, is it LN or the LOG button? To get to C, instead of going down and to the right, you could just press menu, and it's the LN button. Menu, LN on the Casio, which has a red C above it, to take you into the TVM solver, and then you press F2 for compound interest. On the TI, is there anybody here with TI?
Yeah.
No, okay, yes. And for the folks viewing this at home, on the TI, you press the apps button, which should have purple letters on it toward the upper left of your calculator, and then press enter, I believe, 2 times. Some of you that might have older models may need to press second finance, and the finance key should be somewhere in the upper left-hand corner. And I believe enter again gets you into the TVM solver. So, okay, with this information, the Blackmans need to choose which would be the better loan option. So to calculate a 10% down payment on a $265,000 house, I, in my math brain, would just move this decimal over one place and I would see that it's $265,000. But I understand, not everybody's brains work like mine. So to calculate this 10% down payment, we would take 10% as a decimal equivalent, which is 0.10, and we multiply that by the cost of the house, which is $265,000, to get a down payment of $26,500. Now there are a couple of different formulations to find the amount of the loan, because if the house costs $265 and they're putting $26,500 down on it, this is what I like to do in class. I like to draw a pie or a circle representing the entire cost of the house, right? Cost of house. And in this case, I'm working with a 10% down payment. So if I take a 10% slice of the pie out, how much pie is left?
90.
Or cost of the house, yes. 90% of the cost of the house is the PV, the amount of the loan, the amount of the mortgage, the amount you have to borrow from the bank, or that the Blackmans will have to borrow from the bank when they obtain this loan. So you could take $265,000 minus $26,500 to come up with the PV, or I like to do it all in my TVM solver. I mean, it is a calculator anyway, and I'm going to have to fill out the rest of this stuff. So N is the total number of payments in the loan. We will make, the Blackmans will make monthly payments for 25 years for loan A. So on the calculator, you can type in 12 times 25, and when you hit enter or execute, it will give you 300 payments, right? If you're working on phone, you're going to have to figure that out. The I%, this is the amount that the house is financed at, is 11%. That's the APR. We put it in just like that. This TVM solver is like an app in your phone to make your lives easier, so you don't have to convert to the decimal equivalent to put that in there. Now the PV, I told you, I would multiply 0.9 or 0.90, which is the amount of the total cost of the house that we have to borrow from the bank. 90% of $265,000 gives us the same thing as if we were to take $265,000 and subtract $26,500. But I want you to type that into your calculators, and you can go ahead and tell me what you get when you hit the enter or execute key. Go ahead. Is it 250, 225? I don't know.
Wait, what?
0.9 times 265,000.
238,500.
I always jump the gun. I think the answer I gave is the second PV. So this is the amount that the Blackmans have to borrow. After they put $26,500 down on the $265,000 house, that means they have to borrow the rest, $238,500. And I'm not putting commas in here because when you type it in your calculator, you're not gonna use commas. As of right now, we don't yet know what the mortgage payment for the Blackmans will be under Loan A, so we put in a 0 to hold the spot. We can't leave it blank, and we don't wanna leave our previous answer in there, so we just replace it with a 0. Future value, we will never know, and we don't even use for applications in this class. So I equate that to looking into a crystal ball. Do you have a crystal ball you could look into and accurately predict the future value of a home? Me either. So we put our crystal ball right there for the FB. And then PY and CY represents payments per year and compoundments per year. For the purposes of this class, we are assuming all car and mortgage payments are made monthly. So that's 12 times a year. So PY and CY will always be 12. And when you type this into your calculator, if your PY and CY were set to something different, as soon as you put 12 in for PY and hit enter or execute, depending on the kind of calculator, CY is automatically going to change with it. Make sure that either if you have a Casio on the top of your screen, the payment is set to end, or if you have a TI on the bottom of your screen, the payment is set to end. Now, if you have a Casio, you simply, once you have all this typed in, you press F4 to solve for the payment. If you have a TI, you'll put your cursor here, next to this payment in the middle of your screen, and you press the green alpha button, and then the enter key. When you do that, tell me, what do you get for a monthly payment?
Well, you said you hit alpha and then
enter. When your cursor is next to this PMT on the TI.
Wait. The PMT that says end? Or the
No.
PMT that says 0?
This one,
Yeah, negative.
okay?
It's supposed to be
You should get a negative, and you never copy that negative, you replace it with a $sign, because this is money.
Okay.
It's a debit from your checking account, that's why it's showing up as negative.
2,337.57? Or 57 cents?
I'm assuming you rounded that appropriately, okay? So the Blackmans will be looking at a mortgage payment of $2,337.57 on this 25-year loan at 11% APR. But we're not done with this problem yet, because we need to figure out how much is the total amount paid. So one thing we haven't addressed yet is points. Points are the same as a percent of the PV, percent of the loan amount. So if I need to calculate 3 points, I think I'm actually going to scoot over a little bit. No, I'll do it right here. 3% of the PV, that's 0.03, and type this in your calculators with me, 0.03 times the loan amount, $238,500. Now, as you're typing this in, I'm going to tell you that points typically are offered by lending institutions that are willing to lower the APR if you purchase these points at closing. So this would be an additional cost for the house, separate from the other closing costs that are associated with buying a house. So do you get, I'm not going to say it because I might say the answer to the wrong problem. What do you get there? If you want to get out of your TVM solver to figure this out, you can. If you want to do it right in your TVM solver, you can. To get out of it on the Casio, you would press menu 1 to go back to a regular calculator. But I think somebody has the answer. What is it?
7,155.
That's what I was thinking. All right, so that's how much the points will cost for this loan. So we're almost to the end. What we need to figure out now is the total amount paid for Loan A for the Blackmans. So that will be payment times the number of payments plus the down payment plus the points. So we figured the payment on our TVM solver to be $2,337.57. We also figured out that we would be making, or the Blackmans will make that payment 300 times, and that they made a $26,500 down payment. And can I squeeze the points in here? So when you type all of this into your calculators, 2,337, let me take somebody's calculator while you're writing this down. Oops.
Sorry.
And I'm sure you don't mind the pause, because this gives you a chance, watching this on YouTube, to type it into the calculator yourself. Now, can anybody agree that we get $734,926 is a grand total for loan A? Wow, that's a $265,000 house. And look at how much they're gonna pay for it with these conditions. You ready to look at loan B? Okay, because people watching this on YouTube can press pause. I'm gonna go on, and then at the end I'll answer questions. So, for loan B, to find the 15% down payment, we're gonna take the decimal equivalent of 15%, which is 0.15, and multiply that by the cost of the house, which is $26,500. And would you please type that into your calculator and let me know what you get? Okay. I get $39,750 is the 15% down payment amount. So if I were to draw my pie again, where the entire pie is the cost of the house, and I'm looking at a 15% down payment, what percent of the cost of the house will the Blackmans have to borrow? What percent is out here? 85, exactly. So I'm gonna hang on to that for my TVM solver. Okay, so N is our total number of payments. We came out of the TVM solver on the Casio, so to go back into it, we're gonna press menu, and then the LN button, which has the red C above it to get into our TVM or financial solver, and then F2 for compound interest on the Casio. On the TI, you would press F, enter for most versions. Now, N is our total number of payments. We make monthly payments, or the Blackmans, for 30 years. So if we type 12 times 30 into our calculators and press enter or execute, it's going to result in 360 total payments over a 30-year mortgage. That sounds right. The I percent is the annual percentage rate given in the problem, excuse me, which is 10.75. And now here is where we're going to use this 85%. We're going to take the decimal equivalent, which is 0.85, and multiply that by the cost of the house, which is $265,000. Thanks for letting me borrow your calculator, by the way.
No problem.
And so the Blackmans would have to borrow $225,250. This is the answer I jumped ahead to earlier. $225,250 would be their loan amount or their PV after putting a 15% down payment of $39,750 down. Now, if you don't like my way with the pie chart, that's just fine. You could do this 15% of $265,000, and then you could take the cost of the house, $265,000, and subtract the down payment of $39,750, and you'll get the same thing, $225,250. That's the loan amount. And this is money, so since I'm not working in the TVM solver right here, I am labeling it appropriately with dollar signs. As of right now, I haven't solved for the payment yet, and the previous answer is still in my TVM solver, so I'm going to reset that to 0. Future value should still be 0 in your calculator, so we're not going to change that. And the PYCY should still be 12 in your calculator, so we're not going to change that. So once I've typed all this stuff in, on the Casio, I press F4 for payment. On the TI, you would put your cursor right here and press the green alpha button and then the enter key. And I'm getting, this kind of looks weird to me, $2,102.67 when I round to the nearest cent. Notice I'm not copying the negative sign, I'm putting a dollar sign in the place, because this is money, and I'm rounding it to the nearest cent, because really, my calculator says negative 2102.66667. So that .666, this 6 tells me I gotta round this one up to 7. All right, I think we're ready for the total amount paid on loan B for the Blackmans. So the formula I used before for loan A was payment times N plus down payment plus points. It didn't say anything about points for loan B, so I'm just not gonna write plus points and have to fill that out with plus 0. If you need to do that, go right ahead. But we got a payment of $2,102.67. Did anybody do that? You get the same thing as I did?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And we will multiply that by the total 360 payments being made and add the down payment amount of $39,750. So on my Casio, I'm gonna press menu 1 to go back into the regular calculator to type this in, 2102.67 times 360 plus 39750. Whew. Gives me a grand total of $796,711.20. That 6 doesn't look much like a 6. So, if the Blackmans have a choice of paying $796,000 something dollars or $734,000 something dollars, which one do you think that they would choose? The lower one, right? So in this case, the Blackmans should choose loan A. Okay, that's the end of this video. Tune in for more.